Can you hear me? Here we go. Thank you. All right. I think we're all set. All of our technology is in place and in order. We're recording. You all set? All right, I'm having some difficulties, looks like, because I don't have the screen. Anyway, okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Wayne County Commission to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Present.
Looks like the board is not open. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
So moved.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Pro Tem Baydoun, supported by Commissioner Anderson for the minutes of the January 31st, 2023 meeting. In discussion, deletions, additions to the minutes or corrections. Hearing none, please vote on your voting board when it's available. Available now. Here we go. Oh, bear with us, everyone. We do have a new voting system and we're trying to get it synced. So go ahead, everyone, please vote again. People are still coming in, looks like. All right, very good. Phew, got through that. Chair's remarks, I'll take those, Madam Clerk. No remarks today. I do want to thank our guests who we have here in the audience. We do have, I saw two former commissioners here, Shannon Price and Diane Webb. You all want to stand and recognize you. Thank you for coming in today. Good to see you all. Thank you so much, and I'm sure you're going to be excited about the presentation that we have today. So, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Unfinished business, there is none listed. We are moving to page 2 of the agenda. Item number 1 is requesting commission approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the Charter County of Wayne and Canton Township.
Okay, so before us today, we have several of the batch 2 ARPA funding requests. There are 9 items on our agenda. We did have a presentation a few weeks back on the general purposes of those. These are the actual contracts. So I wanted to allow our interim economic development director to come and go over these items with us. We'll go over them one by one. I do believe you have a presentation as well, sir. So we can get that queued up for the presentation. We'll go through the items and we'll take one motion and one vote after the presentation is complete. Okay, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to everybody. First and foremost, my name is Hassan Sheikh. I'm the Interim Director of Economic Development. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of the commissioners and your staff, especially. Throughout the duration of this entire process, your staff and your team and your offices have been wonderful in helping us get all these projects moving forward. So I really want to commend you all and thank you all, especially your staff. Very much wanted to say that. During this presentation, you're going to see a couple names at the top of each of the projects. Those will be our project managers. And I wanted to make sure that I highlight that so that way you all can put a face from my team in terms of who is leading the efforts for each of these projects. Furthermore, we will have representation from each of these communities. We will ask them after their slide, we will ask them to come up and give a very brief, short statement on their project. Again, I emphasize brief, for the sake of time. Then also would like to ask for commissioners. I know that there's going to be some questions and some concerns potentially. If we could wait till after the presentation to bring those forth, that would be very much appreciated. With that being said, let's get into this, into the meat of what we're here for. So first off, I would like to start off by discussing our process review again. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is just an overview of our buckets, the scopes in which that we like to bring forth the projects, right? So we got public spaces. What does public spaces entail? Parks and trails and recreation and community centers, main streets and complete streets. Workforce development, that includes subsidized training, underrepresented workers, return to work, career navigators and Boys and Girls Club program, for example. Housing and education, refugee housing, the demolition of blighted properties and education initiatives. Health, community needs health assessment, expand access to behavioral health services, etc. Economic recovery, the small business technical assistance program, municipality economic development projects, etc. Infrastructure, water, sewer, drains infrastructure, roads infrastructure, and sustainability programs. Those are all of which the buckets in which we want to make sure that all of these projects falls within. And as we go through the presentation, I will highlight in which of these buckets each of these projects falls within. We go to the next slide, please. To go through the methodology in which our team looks and assesses these projects and proposals as they're coming to us, we bring you this pyramid. Since we've come on, there's been one adjustment, as I mentioned at our January 31st meeting, that has been made to this pyramid, and that is next to feasibility. We've added sustainability. And as I come there, I'll talk about that a little more. We start at the bottom with, does this meet Treasury requirements? These are federal funds. We need to make sure that that happens. COVID-19 pandemic relation, outcome-driven results, feasibility and sustainability. ARPA funds are one-time funds, but we also want to take a look at a project and make sure that this is sustainable for the long term and long-term impact for these communities. Leverage, and last but not least, very important, equity. So let's get into our batch 2 proposed projects. We have 8 community projects that we'll be discussing with you all today. First of which is the Southgate Tower Park and pedestrian bridge. This will be located in the city of Southfield. Our project manager on this is Lucius Anthony. The city of Southgate is going to use ARPA dollars potentially to create the Southgate Tower Park and pedestrian bridge. This project is going to bring a new unique park space to the city that will be open to the public and include tennis, pickleball courts, walking path, putting greens, and an outdoor fitness circuit. This will complement a larger project to rehabilitate the Southgate Tower. Now, if you have questions as you're looking at the allocations of where will our $5 million specifically go towards, if you look at the screen, the large green space towards the left, that is where our dollars will be getting put to use. This falls underneath the public spaces project category due to the parks and trails, the recreation, the public outdoor space. And during COVID, and you'll hear me say this a couple times during this presentation, during COVID, we learned the importance of having good outdoor public spaces that can be used by the community, as well as bringing in others that can come in and utilize the space to really use it for health, for recreation, for relaxation, and for all those above mentioned purposes. At this time, I'm going to ask representatives from the city of Southgate to come up and speak very briefly.
Good afternoon. I'm Joseph Cuspa, the mayor of the city of Southgate. I've been proudly representing the city of Southgate for the past 13 years. So as you can imagine, those of you who have served in that time frame, you've seen a lot of challenges, and obviously COVID is probably one of the premier challenges that all of us have faced. Unfortunately, Southgate has the distinction of having the first death in the state of Michigan as it relates to COVID, and that goes back to March 18th, 2020. So as a community, we've been dealing with this, as well as all of the communities in Wayne County and Wayne County as a whole, since the very onset of the pandemic. We also were instrumental in working with the county to open the first testing facility in our home, my hometown, but in the city of Southgate shortly after that at the Sam's Club location on North Line and 75. So we've been intimately involved with the county as it relates to dealing with the COVID pandemic and seeing these resources now come to Michigan and in particular Wayne County, and your ability to now share them with communities to help us cope with the pandemic is extremely gratifying as one local leader. This particular park has some great attributes, which Dan Marsh, the city administrator, will go into, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood from the city's leadership how important this is to help repair our community as it relates to the COVID. It was mentioned just a few moments ago about recreation, and this will add another component to our recreational park system in the city of Southgate. And during the pandemic, obviously, we host the YMCA for many communities in Southgate. That was closed down. All of our private facilities for exercising were closed down. So we saw the focus on this, the opportunity because of the development that's going next to it, to really add another part of recreation that will address the needs for that part of our community. And we really appreciate the opportunity to put this in, but also the audience it has received from the county in terms of the ARPA funding. So with that, I'd just like to turn it over to Dan to talk to you a little bit more about just the specifics of this project.
Thank you. Dan Marsh, as the mayor said, city administrator. One thing to keep in mind with this project, as you heard about the amenities that it will bring to the city, the location that these amenities are specifically in are in one of the most underserved parts of the city. The equity emphasis tool that SEMCOG puts out rates this area of the city as a 3 out of 4, and specifically because this area of the city has high rates of households without a car, households with individuals with a disability, and households in the poverty level. So not only will this project bring a whole new range of amenities to the city as a whole, it's going to specifically impact people who need it most. The bridge should not be underestimated. That is going to be a huge part of this project as well, creating a whole new level of connectivity and walkability to our city. And it will bring a lot more people into this area. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the city of Wyandotte. The Wyandotte Capital Improvements and Infrastructure Project, located in the city of Wyandotte. Again, the project manager on this is Lucius Anthony. City of Wyandotte and Downtown Development Authority is currently planning a major placemaking and public infrastructure project that will deliver approximately a total of $13 million worth of capital improvements to the area. The project will drastically improve the safety of and access to the built environment and will enhance bicycle, pedestrian, and non-motorized connections between neighborhoods, waterfront, and all assets and amenities in between. The total cost of this project is $13,302,928. The community's contribution to this project is $8,302,928. Contributions from other partners are $1,050,000. Our contribution to this project is $3,950,000. This project falls within the economic recovery category due to it being a municipal economic development project, as well as the ability for it to affect small businesses in the area and transform the area and catalyze business retention and attraction, as well as foot traffic from locals and tourism coming into the area. I also would like to highlight the focus does revolve around mobility. And the county is dedicated in terms of enhancing mobility throughout the entire county. With that being said, I would like to bring up any representatives in the room for the city of Wyandotte.
Thank you. I'm Rob Desain, the mayor of Wyandotte. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you for considering us for the phase 2 of the ARPA funds. We're here for really the infrastructure of our downtown. Wyandotte is the second oldest incorporated city next to the city of Detroit in Wayne County. Needless to say, our infrastructure needs help. We plan on using this money for the alleys and the parking lots, addressing the sewers, the overhead lines, walkways. But it's a very much needed project. It's, our infrastructure down there is like 70 to 80 years old. So without the help of the county and distribution of the money of ARPA funds to our city, I don't think this project would really be able to happen. So we appreciate whatever you can do for us. And I'll turn it over to Joe Gruber, who deals with this project among others within the city.
Good afternoon, Wayne County Commissioners and everybody in the room. Thank you so much for having us today. Thank you for hosting us. It's a real pleasure after the time and effort that everybody in this room and everybody behind me has spent going through these projects that we're all here today together. So thank you for that. This is truly a transformative project for the city of Wyandotte. I should mention I serve as the Downtown Development Director for the city. We have been working very hard in supporting small local businesses. I have the great pleasure of working alongside dozens, I would say upwards of 120 small local business owners, many of whom are women-owned businesses, many of whom are immigrant-owned businesses in our community that call Wyandotte their home. You'll notice that this project is color-coded in two different sections. We have our east alleyways and our west alleyways. This is the project approach to deliver those improvements based on their priority. That priority goes hand in hand with some of the other exciting projects we have. The redevelopment of our former post office, it's sat vacant for 10 years on Biddle Avenue, is currently under demolition and reconstruction into a 35-unit apartment building. This project will directly enhance connectivity of those new residents coming into downtown and will help connect people to, as it says, our waterfront and the neighborhoods. The former post office, another long vacant project, is nearing completion with another 49 units of residential in the downtown district, and a lot of other really exciting projects on the horizon. I want to also point out that without the support of the county, a project like this becomes extremely difficult for us in probably one of the most important times. Our downtown during the COVID pandemic, like all of our communities, was completely decimated. Our otherwise very vibrant and active downtown had little to no activity happening whatsoever. So on the heels of that pandemic, we are coming and driving this major infrastructure improvement project. We have more residents, more businesses opening than ever, which is very positive. But with that comes more garbage trucks, more delivery trucks, more pedestrians, more vehicle traffic. So this is a multifaceted economic development and placemaking project. We thank you for your consideration.
Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you. Our next project is the Centennial Community Plaza, located in the city of River Rouge. Our project manager on this is also Lucius Anthony. The city of River Rouge seeks to add a community plaza centrally located in the city's downtown. The addition of a plaza would catalyze further development of an urban downtown area by creating a space for everyone to gather, relax, and play. The total cost of this project is $325,000. The community's contribution to this project is $50,000. And our contribution to this is $275,000. It falls within the project category of public spaces, as it falls as parks and trails and as well as recreation. This project itself is looking to catalyze economic development within the area to help retention and attraction of small businesses, as well as provide foot traffic and tourism to help bolster the foot traffic into these small businesses as well. At this time, I would like to ask any representation from the city of River Rouge. I believe River Rouge is on Zoom. If you could unmute your mic and speak for a very brief amount of time about this project.
Yes, this is Carol Ladd, Community Development Director for the City of River Rouge. And what we're trying to do is get some public spaces in our downtown area. You know, we really don't have anything for people to gather, so we're looking at a place where we can have food trucks in the summer and in the fall, farmers market, and just a place for people to walk. And we have a bike trail along West Jefferson that is well used. It'll give an opportunity for people to stop and visit with each other. Our downtown took a hit with losing businesses over COVID, so we're just trying to bring it back and make a viable, walkable, friendly downtown. Thank you. Thanks for all your help.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for joining us via Zoom.
Oh, thank you sorry I'm not there, but I have a broadband meeting that's kind of at the same time, so it's difficult.
Well, thank you for joining us.
But we appreciate Wayne County. Mayor
Thank you.
Mike William Campbell also.
Have a great day. Enjoy your broadband meeting, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next project is the Melvindale Kessie Fieldhouse Capital Improvements Project. This is located in the city of Melvindale. The project manager on this is Lucius Anthony. The city of Melvindale, Kessie Fieldhouse is the cornerstone of the community. It serves as a service center in times of emergencies. I believe even just as recent as last week, it was used as a warming center during the ice storm. The city of Melvindale's proposed project is to rehabilitate the existing facility through capital improvements, including the roof, parking lot, indoor turfs, interior hall, concession offices, and the adjacent boat launch. It is something to note, to bring to note that this building is 53 years old. It was built in 1972, and it is in dire need of these updates. The total cost of this project is $4,344,721. The community's contribution to this project is $344,721. Contributions from other partners is $2 million. And our contribution to this project is $2 million. This project falls within the public spaces category. Again, as we mentioned in prior projects, during COVID, we saw the importance and the need of facilities that can provide, whether it's during emergencies, a place that you can come to, whether it's to provide large-scale shots, or last week, vaccinations, or last week during an ice storm where we needed warming centers. This is what this facility does for this community. It is a place where the community can come gather, can revitalize its health, but then also taking on from COVID, making sure that we're bolstering a healthy, conscious culture within the community. At this time, I would like to ask for a representative from the city of Melvindale to come up to the podium.
Good afternoon. The city of Melvindale appreciates the consideration for this project. The mayor and city council completely support this. I'll be brief and give you a brief history. It was constructed in 1972. It was originally an ice rink. Through the years, it's had problems with operating as a hockey facility or ice skating facility. It was repurposed about 7 or 8 years ago for indoor turf. It is a hub of our community. The city hosts its annual Melvindale Days there, the carnival, which is well attended. It is not just indoor turf. Our senior center operates out of there with the smart buses. Our Meals on Wheels operates out of there. There is a small banquet hall attached to the facility. It is seasonal. Most people go outside to play soccer in the summer. They have a boat dock that's been there since '72, but we're looking to get more kayaks out there. It's basically a slab of cement. Finally, during COVID is when it really came to light how important it is to the city. Everyone was waiting to get the vaccines distributed. Melvindale works with, has a contract, works jointly with City of Dearborn firefighters. That's our fire department. And the mayor really wanted to get the distribution going for the vaccines, and the fire department was able to utilize that facility, which was opened up to everybody. It wasn't just Melvindale, and it was used 2 or 3 times to administer those vaccines. As recently as last week, it was used as a warming center. And the facility itself is not just for Melvindale, it's a very regional facility. Southwest Detroit, City of Dearborn, Melvindale, anybody else that would like to utilize it does, but it's very well attended. And with the changing demographics as well as the increase in population, the city saw a 20% increase in population from the 2010 census. You see it at the schools. The elementary schools are very
booming, I should say, I guess. But at the end of the day, this is a very much needed project for the city. It is utilized. Thank you.
Name and title for the record, please.
I am Richard Ortiz, City Administrator, Finance Director.
Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you. Our next project is the Huron Charter Township Downtown Development Project. This is located in Huron Township, and the project manager on this one is a different name than the last couple, but David Schreiber. This project will redevelop downtown New Boston. The downtown streets will be resurfaced. Bike lanes will be added, connecting to the Metro Park. New lighting and landscaping will be installed, and utilities will be buried, and a small park overlooking the Huron River will be constructed. The total cost of this project is $5,375,000. The community's contribution to this project is $5.1 million. Our contribution to this project is $275,000. This falls within the economic recovery bucket, as it is a municipal economic development project. And again, it's a project that focuses and that involves heavily on mobility. It includes a small park for the community to enjoy and encourage, which will hopefully catalyze foot traffic as well as tourism, which will then bolster the small business community, and then catalyze economic development as a whole for business retention and business attraction. At this time, I would like to call up representatives from Huron Township.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is David Glabe. I'm the Huron Township Supervisor. I appreciate the opportunity to address you today and appreciate your consideration of this project. When you talk about transformational projects, this truly is one of them. Our whole downtown infrastructure, the roads, terrible condition. The curves were all broken up. Re-rod was sticking out into the streets. We had utility poles literally in the middle of the sidewalks where people would walk or kids would ride their bikes. Lots of utility lines running over the streets. A lot of them, were not even functional, and it was a tremendous amount of blight. This particular project includes rebuilding all of the streets downtown, about a half a mile altogether, removing the utility poles from the sidewalks, burying the electrical DTE lines underground, and again, putting in new sidewalks to make it a more pedestrian-friendly downtown. This project's on the heels of a new bridge just around the corner that this county was very instrumental in helping us rebuild a very dangerous bridge that's critical to the transportation through the township. These particular funds will particularly assist in the creation of a park that will it's actually located on our best natural resource in the community, that being the Huron River. It'll be a public gathering spot for the general public for various activities we have throughout the year. We have an annual October festival in the first weekend of October every year. And this is another open space that will help that venture as well. So a lot of great, exciting things happening, but this particular contribution of funds would help us really pull this project together. So we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Our next project is the Redford Recreation and Wellness Center, located in Redford Township. Our project manager on this is David Schreiber. Redford is seeking to build a recreation and wellness center near its existing Civica campus in downtown Redford that will include a recreational area, classroom spaces, a swimming pool, field house, along with all the required infrastructure to support this project, such as a retention basin and parking. The total cost of this project is $19,533,433. The community's contribution to this project is $11,076,433. Contributions from other partners are $2 million. Our contribution to this project would be $6.5 million. This falls within the public spaces category as it is a recreation and community center. And I do want to highlight with this that this would allow for more programs with classroom spaces, with ability to do teaching, to do certain types of trainings, as well as meeting spaces for the area and those that live within the community, as well as other amenities that again bolster up our ability or the community's ability to induce a healthy lifestyle. Again, which during COVID we learned was extremely important to many people during that time. At this time, I would like to invite someone from Redford Township to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a new one for me. I don't think I've ever been.
Other side of the room, right?
Other side of the room. So nice to see all of you again and to be back here. It's nostalgic for me and it's just a happy place. But we're here today to ask for your consideration. I'd like to introduce my Township Supervisor, Pat McCray. Pat McCray and I and our Leisure Services Director, Teresa Burgess, Economic Development Director, Tony Jablonski, and Trustee of Redford Township, Linda Jackson. The team came down because this was really a team effort. And I got to send out special thanks to David Schreiber from your team because he did a fantastic job working with all of us on this. And this is a project that Redford's been working on for about 4 or 5 years through feasibility studies, et cetera. Redford Township is a 190-year-old, very racially harmonious community, older urban ring community that doesn't have a lot of opportunity to build and grow and develop because of its, and I know a lot of you that represent older communities is somewhat landlocked, right? And so we have a park in the center of town called the Western Graham Park between the golf course and the St. Valentine's Church that we own. And so we had the land to put something there. We just never had the funding to do it. So the ARPA funding came through and the opportunity to work with all of you, which could make this possible. And this is a very transformative project for Redford Township. Redford Township has about 80% of their kids on the free lunch program. It's a working blue collar community that just never could afford anything nice like this. And our people just can't afford to pay non-resident rates for amenities like this in neighboring communities. So they really do without. We were hit very hard through the COVID pandemic, and I think we were even hit worse through the recession that we're still recovering from, with 8,000 of our 20,000 households at one time that were rental properties. So it's created a really tough go for us. You all know how Headley hurts us all as far as the taxes go, and it's just been something we've been really slow to recover from. We're in the process of doing a 20-year master plan with Wade Trim, and they told us that this project was going to be an economic development catalyst. It's the perfect thing that we need to drive the numbers up of people that drive through our community so that we can start placemaking it. Right now, we can't give the return on the investment to investors to bring them. So unless government does this, starts this ball rolling, we won't be able to transform our downtown. So this is right on the outside of our DDA, of our Downtown Development Authority. It will just work as a great economic catalyst. It'll serve as a recreational and wellness center. We're going to have a therapeutic pool, and we have a high population of seniors. We're going to have an indoor walking track. It's a 30,000 square foot facility, 19.5 million. It'll have a full basketball courts that we can do basketball tournaments, which is pretty popular in Redford Township, and pickleball courts, which is popular everywhere. So we would really appreciate your support on this endeavor. And if my supervisor would like to add anything for the good of the order, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Pat McCray, Redford Township Supervisor. I just want to thank the commission for your consideration for this very outstanding project. We haven't had anything like this in the township for decades. This gives an opportunity for our residents to stay home and be able to do things in their own community, expand our programs that we can offer, and enhance the wellness of everybody in the community. So I very greatly thank you for considering us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming down. We appreciate it. Good seeing you, Diane.
Great seeing you as
Different on
well.
that on that side of the room, isn't it?
Okay, well, somebody left their phone though here. They're gonna miss it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That would be mine.
All right, Director?
Next up, we have the Cherry Hill Village. Canton Township, that's where it will be located, and our project manager is David Schreiber. I was just thinking, just so people can get affiliated with who David Schreiber and Lucius Anthony are. David Schreiber and Lucius Anthony, would you guys just stand up real quick? So we have Lucius Anthony right here, and then we have David Schreiber right there. Those are the two major project managers so all the commissioners can put a face to a name real quick. So
Thank you, gentlemen.
This is the development of a new town within a town consisting of 6 interconnected components. Number 1, you have the Canton Town Square, an 8-acre central park. Number 2, you have the Village Arts Factory renovation. Number 3, you have the public parking aspect. And number 4, you have the reuse of Cherry Hill School. Number 5, you have the preservation park development. Number 6, a public trail system. This plan will create a programmable downtown to develop a sense of community in an otherwise stalled area of town. This will hopefully invigorate and catalyze economic development by not only increasing tourism in the area, but then also foot traffic from the surrounding community. As Canton Township is a large community, this area right now seems like it doesn't have as much activity as it should. And then also business attraction and retention. This falls within the economic recovery project category. The total project cost on this is $9.5 million. The community's contribution is $4.75 million. And the county, our contribution is matching that at $4.75 million. At this time, I would like to ask for Canton Township representation to come up to the podium.
Thank you. My name is Anne Marie Graham Hudak, Canton Township Supervisor, and this is Joseph Halber, the Deputy Supervisor. I'd first like to thank the Commission for us being here and also the help of Dave Schreiber and Commissioner Melissa Daub for the work on this. As was said, Canton Township is a large township. We are actually the 9th largest community in Michigan and the 3rd largest community in West Wayne County. And because of that, we need a downtown. I mean, this is really what we're looking at here. This part of Cherry Hill Village was established in 1825. It's one of the hamlets, the historical hamlets in Michigan. It was built in 1825, founded there, and it was named after cherry trees that were established in the area. We have a lot of historic buildings there. We have the Methodist Church, which was established in 1834, Cherry Hill Village School, which was established in 1876, as well as the Bartlett Traverse House and many other communities. In 1940, Henry Ford built a village arts factory there. I'm sorry, it was a village factory. It's now the Village Arts Factory. But he had a village factory and he created a little factory and dormitory for World War II veterans. They would come out of the war disabled and he gave them housing and a place to work. And probably in the late 1990s, we had a group called the Partnership for the Arts that came in and they created the Village Arts Factory, which now houses about 12 to 15 artists. But it was left unfinished. So this project is also going to help us with that. It's going to create a walkable downtown area for residents. Canton doesn't have that. We have Ford Road, if you ever have driven through, it's just retail. But this is going to be a downtown area where we have our Rally on the Ridge. We have we have the Cherry Hill Village Festival. We have a lot of programming already happening there. Our Village Arts Theater is there. It's one of the greatest theaters in Wayne County. We also have what came before this body about 6 months ago, our therapeutic rec program, which helps disabled adults. And it's the Western Wayne Therapeutic Rec Program. And we are going to expand that Village Arts Factory and fix it up so that we can hold more programming for there. We also have a group called the Block Program, which is for at-risk youth. And they come after school for an after-school program. And the programming is going to be expanded for them in this village also. So we have a lot of things that we're planning right now. We have already hired a programmer that's helping us expand some of this programming. And this is what's going to be best for creating a downtown area, walkable downtown area for our residents. Joe, would you like to say a few words?
Supervisor Graham Hudak said, thank you for your consideration of this project. This is a project that's definitely going to improve mobility in Canton, particularly mobility and connectedness between neighborhoods and businesses. which as Supervisor Graham Hudak alluded to in Canton is something that's lacking. If you've ever driven down Ford Road before and you're not a fan of traffic, there are a lot of people with cars in Canton. And so this project is going to help create more walkable, bikeable spaces within the community. We'll also enhance both our indoor and outdoor facilities, which we know during the pandemic became very important, particularly ventilation within indoor spaces and parks. We're very excited for this project. We're hearing a lot, from our residents and our businesses. And we just want to thank you for your consideration of this.
Thank you both for joining us today.
Our next project is the Garden City Community Center. This is located in Garden City, and the project manager on this is David Schreiber. I would like to start off by stating on this project that on my part, coming in, I am the interim director. I'm a little new, still learning a few things, and I do apologize. There was an oversight on the presentation that was given to you guys on the 31st, where this project, there was an oversight where it wasn't included. And I do want to apologize to Commission for that. However, it was included in the presentation that we provided you all prior to this. And I'm looking forward to presenting it to you today and adhering to any questions that you all might have. So again, I do apologize for that as we've rectified the situation and now it is included and here in front of you. So I do want to apologize for that. This project involves the renovation and expansion of a 67-year-old community center. The building will become the much-needed community center that the city has never had, hosting all types of new programming, leagues, and community activities for people of all abilities and income levels. This project will enable asbestos removal and remediation, create a secured entrance, a new parking lot, specialty rooms, and a new gymnasium, and expand the community center's food bank program as well. This falls within the project category of public spaces as it is a recreation and community center. The total cost of the project is $5 million. The community is contributing $1 million, and our contribution to this project will be $4 million. I do want to highlight that this project is heavily focusing on the asbestos removal and remediation, as well as specialty rooms that will provide the community with areas to come study, to do trainings, for meetings, and for any other types of educational purposes that they may have, as well as expanding the community's food bank program. And this is a distressed community. So these are all important needs. And again, coming back to the pyramid, feasibility and sustainability. So those are things that I wanted to highlight. At this point, at this time, can we please have representation from the City of Garden or Garden City come up to the podium?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for this time. My name is Mark Jacobs. I am the mayor of the City of Garden City. With me is our Director of Public Works, Brad Oman. This facility we want to renovate was built in 1961 as Radcliffe Junior High School. The building closed as a public school in the late 1980s, but was reopened by Schoolcraft College as a satellite campus in 1993. Last spring, the city purchased the building from Schoolcraft College to become the city's first full-service community center. The new community center is being designed as a place for residents and guests of all ages, with seniors in the morning, teens during the day, and adults during the evening. Some different age groups will overlap throughout the day, but most programming will be split up between the three age groups. Current Wayne County programs that exist in the Radcliffe Center today include our food pantry, the Senior Alliance, a youth assistance program for troubled youth, and a youth prevention program for at-risk kids. Wayne County also just agreed to establish a Veterans Services Office at the Radcliffe Center to serve veterans from throughout Wayne County at no charge. Other times we've worked with Wayne County in the past and will in the future at the Radcliffe Center include lead water education, lead water filter distribution, COVID mask distribution, flood damage assessment and reporting, COVID vaccines, and COVID testing. With this investment, the center will be open to residents of all Wayne County. It is already on the edge of Westland, so we expect to serve residents from Westland, Canton, Livonia, Dearborn Heights, and Inkster. As you review this project, I believe you will see great value in it, not just for Garden City, but for all of Wayne County. With that, I thank you for your time and consideration in this project.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down today.
Thank you. Last but not least, we bring to you an internal project brought to you by the Wayne County Land Bank. This project dealing with the Blighted Property Demolition Program. The Blighted Property Demolition Program will safely remove dangerous structures and materials from Wayne County communities. Funding will allow the Wayne County Land Bank to work quickly to demolish all blighted structures currently in the Wayne County Land Bank inventory and any inventory received throughout the term of the agreement. This investment also includes inventory that will be transferred to Wayne County Land Bank from the City of Highland Park after demolition. Our investment into this program is $7.5 million. And the director of the Wayne County Land Bank is Anthony Cartwright, who is present today as well. With that being said, those are all of our 9 projects that we're bringing before you today. Again, I want to thank the commission staff. I want to thank the Economic Development Division staff, our Corp Counsel, and Eddie and Darcel over here as well. You guys have been wonderful. But to get us to this point, it's been a process, and we've all been great partners to one another. And I'm looking forward to continuing to grow that partnership to do wonderful things. So with that being said, I appreciate you and I thank you, and I open it up to any questions that the commission may have at this point.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you for working with the communities to bring this together. The important part of the ARPA dollars, as we're spending it, is to provide that gap funding for communities to do great things within their communities, to make sure that they're retaining their residents and attracting new residents, to have nice recreational centers, new buildings remodeled and refurbished. Those are the things that will attract more people to each community here in Wayne County, and to make sure that we keep our residents who've been paying into the tax base, give them something for their taxes. So we're excited that they have brought these projects to you, and that the presentation is being brought to us for further discussion. And with that, I will open it up to questions from commissioners. The board is not working, so go the old-fashioned way, just raise your hand. Commissioner Anderson, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if my mic is on. I think it is. Yes, Hassan, I just wanted to ask you, I know I talked to you before the meeting started, but I wanted to get it on record, I guess, that if we're, with these projects, if these projects are all approved, what will be the balance available for a possible and a likely third batch of projects? And what is the timeline for that?
Yeah, no, that I appreciate the question, Commissioner. So as we're going through batch 2, again, this is an A through Z process. I'm coming in at X, and our team has been working very heavily and focused on batch 2 and making sure it gets in front of you all today. So in regards to batch 3 as a whole, once we get through batch 2 and get these things moving, then we can kind of put our full emphasis and focus onto batch 3. Right now, we are receiving proposals and are accepting proposals, but we have not gotten into the weeds of anything with batch 3 at this time. So with the timeline, once we round the corner of a batch 2, then we can get better on that. But when it comes to how much funding will be available, after we hopefully the commission goes through and approves all of batch 2, we will have dispersed approximately half of our funds. So we're looking at approximately $166 million left in the bank moving towards batch 3.
Last question I have is I noticed that the...
And we can get you some exact, and we'll get exact numbers over to the commission as well.
Okay, I appreciate that. I wanted to thank the team that you have that's been doing this, and I know under time constraints, and we all are, to make sure we get these projects done and approved, and hopefully everything moves smoothly in the completion because of the federal timelines that we have. The other thing I did notice that one of the projects looks like it might have a different photo than is actually the Radcliffe Center. And I don't know if that was a mistake internally or if I'm misunderstanding it. Because I know
Which project was that?
it was on the Garden City, I'm sorry.
Oh, the Garden City one?
Is it the Radcliffe Center or the Maplewood Center?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Knizzli.
So just for Hassan, Commissioner, you are correct that the picture that is on the slide deck is the Maplewood Community Center, which of course you're familiar with. The project that we're discussing here today and the investment that we're looking to make would be in the Radcliffe Center located on the far west side of the city.
Thank you. I just wanted to clear that up for everybody that it's the Radcliffe Center.
Thank you for clarifying, Commissioner.
As the mayor did mention earlier, but thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And the only two people who would know that is Commissioner Knizzli and Commissioner Anderson about that picture. It looked the same to me. Okay, we have a list here. Vice Chair Pro Tem Baydoun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Hassan, for this very informative presentation. I'd like to thank all the mayors and the city managers for also being here. I am very excited for all these communities and these developments. Without a doubt, these will enhance the lives and property values of these communities. Throughout the presentation, in a couple of the cities, I think it was in Wyandotte, I heard the mayor saying that the overhead lines will be buried during this project, and also in another project. This is welcome news considering the recent ice storm that we had and all the damage that it has caused. I'm just curious, when these communities bury the lines, does DTE Energy share any of the cost of burying these lines, or this is all the burden, responsibility of the communities? Does anybody know this? I'm just curious.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Basham.
I got history on Wyandotte too. They used to have their own electrical power, so they were in charge of everything, not DTE, Wyandotte.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Wyandotte has their own electric utility company, and Channel 7 did a program just the other day. And then today WJR is interviewing the electric department at 4 o'clock. So we had great success with the storm. Unfortunately for everybody else, but we were up within like 48 hours, everybody was up, so.
For the entire city of Wyandotte, is that, you have your own station?
Yes, we have our own power
station.
plant. We have our own electric utilities. We have our own water, internet, cable.
Wow.
The electric was established like in 1890 or something, so the forefathers did a great job.
So DTE doesn't have customers in
No.
Wyandotte?
Nope.
You gotta start sending some buyers to Wyandotte.
Yeah, wish we had the capacity for everybody, but unfortunately we don't.
And to Commissioner's question, does DTE have any cost? Do they share in the cost of that at all, or is that solely the communities?
So Commissioner Baydoun, to answer that question, so in here in Township, when we did the street project, we did bury the utilities. And so unfortunately, DT does not share in the cost directly. So that's borne, at least in our experience, it's on the community. It is not cheap. It is not cheap, but it's certainly, I mean, it made our project. You know, when we rebuilt the street, you've got one time to do it, right? So, but having said that, it made all the difference in the world burying the utilities in terms of appearance and aesthetics. And again, our utility poles were literally right in the middle of the sidewalks. So, you know, it served a multi-purpose for us to bury the utilities, but be prepared to bear the brunt of the cost. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Basham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in support of every one of these programs or ARPA funds for every community, except that we have a problem. If we do our job properly, it's not okay to say the administration will give you the subcontractor information after identified by community. We are supposed to vote on that, knowing who the subcontractors are before we vote on it. So my question is to our commission council, can we vote on that and then say conditional on? Because I don't want to violate our procurement ordinance either. That's
Council.
one question.
Through the chair to this honorable body, Commissioner is correct that typically when you have projects, the subcontractors are known at the time of commission approval. The ordinance, procurement ordinance requires that that information be submitted at the time of submission to the commission. Just like batch one, and the department can confirm, because these subcontractors are not known at this time, they have agreed to submit those subcontractors as soon as they become available to the commission for informational purposes for receiving and filing. The resolution that the commission approves for these can include language that indicates that the department will submit that information back to the commission, and that is an expectation of this body upon which it's approving to make sure that information comes back.
And Madam Chair, can I say yes and hope that my commission members support me? That way we can move forward with that issue. That's number one. Is that
That's when we get to the motion.
okay? I'm just, I got the floor for a quick second. Also, I'm in full support. One of the things mentioned by one of the communities was about the roof. It was in Melvindale. I think they was talking about putting a roof on. We on a county, Wayne County has a roof that needs repair yesterday, and it has other issues too. Can we use some of this ARPA funding to fix our own roofs in the county that are affecting people's lives?
And make mention of which building you're speaking of, Commissioner.
I'm thinking of Henry Ruff.
Thank you.
Is that possible to use ARPA funding for a county project where there's mold on all the walls and people are actually trying to work out of there?
So again, our focus was a lot towards batch two in terms of the projects that were in front of us. When it comes to circling around with whatever remaining funds we have and the types of projects that we want to bring forth, we'll definitely make sure that we take note of this advisement and look into what falls within compliance, what we're allowed to do, and if there's any specialty projects that commission recommends, we'd like to have those conversations offline so we can make sure we're cross-checking it just to make sure that we are able to do that.
There's a public health hazard there, and that should be done yesterday. And I've had conversations with all sorts of folks on the administration and on this commission relative to that. And I'd like to see us fast track that because it's not like this project and then that project. There's people actually working. There's lime in the building. There's mushrooms growing in the toadstools growing on the carpet. I mean, I fully support locals and the projects they're doing, but we also need to fully support our own buildings and our own staff too. And I haven't heard a word about that publicly from anybody.
I appreciate that commentary. Would love to have an offline conversation about the building which you speak of. And then also, hopefully we'll be able to get around to all the commissioners to kind of have those conversations in regards to, for what vision we have as a whole for economic development as we move forward.
And in the very near future, Commissioner Basham will be having a buildings meeting with his buildings work group to talk just that, so we can work on how we can get funding to make that building safer for the people who work there.
I'm very much looking forward to that.
And fast track it, right?
Yep, thank you. Absolutely. So we do have many employees who are in those unsafe health conditions right now, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Madam, sorry. Okay, I'll start all over again. Okay, in regards to the project in Highland Park that is being done. Have we selected the contractors? And is it still ongoing? Because there are some that should have been done that is being included now in this.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott, for the question. I'm going to pass it off to the Director of the Wayne County Land Bank, Anthony Cartwright.
Good afternoon, Anthony Cartwright, Executive Director, Wayne County Land Bank. To answer your question, no, the contractors have not been selected. After this process and commission votes, we're going to do an RFQ for surveying companies and RFQ for contractors. And at that time, we'll select the contractors.
About how long will that take?
The RFQs normally take about 2 weeks. Okay, 30 days. Yes.
30 days from today.
No, 30 days from acceptance of
30 days from when?
30 days from acceptance of probably after tomorrow, 30 days after tomorrow, yes.
Okay. All right, because some of these are some dangerous structures that should have been down some time ago, but I'm grateful for these ARPA funds to help move this along.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Jesus?
Thank you. Hassan, I just want to know, you mentioned the number $166 million was left, that after the part two of spending, or it'll be less when we spend the part two?
That is after batch two. The original presentation that was brought forth in front of you on January 31st included the entirety of batch two. When we're talking about every single one of those projects out of the batch two, then we're looking at an approximate 166 left over. And again, I'll get you guys exact numbers. That includes these projects. Now, if you guys were,
166 include those projects today?
Yeah. So if you were to approve these projects, we would have an approximate, and the additional projects as they come, as they come through the process, we would have a remainder of approximately $166 million to go into batch three. Now, that depends on the approvals and whatnot, but those are the contingencies. But then you're looking at, based on that entirety of the presentation and adding in Garden City, you're looking at approximately 166.
Thank you. Commissioner Kniezek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got an ask. The first is if I can be a maker of the motion on item number 8. The second are a couple comments and then 2 questions for Hassan.
Yep.
First, I would really be remiss if I didn't pause to recognize my friends and colleagues from Redford Township and appreciate the latitude that my colleague to my left might afford me in that regard. This has been interesting because the work on these projects have crossed over redistricting efforts. And so those of us have been involved in things in the beginning and not at the end and vice versa. So to Diane and Linda and Pat and Teresa and all others that I didn't mention, but I know have been involved in this project, I just want to say congratulations to our folks in Redford Township. I think it's really exceptional. I want to extend the same gratitude and appreciation to Garden City. Mayor Jacobs, who spoke earlier today, Brad, who stood behind him. I also have to recognize, again, in terms of crossing over administrations, Mayor Walker, who I think is also in the audience here today as well. And if I can be candid with this group, I think what's so beautiful about this project in particular, at least from my vantage point, the 2 gentlemen that are sitting next to each other right now ran against each other in the November election. And when I knew that I was picking Garden City, I was treading lightly. I didn't want to get sideways, right, with one or the other. Both of those gentlemen made it crystal clear to me that was in the past, that we are looking to the future, and we are going to do what's in the best interest of the community. And so I want to give my hats off to Mayor Walker and Mayor Jacobs for just being outstanding examples of how we should act as leaders and how we should be putting our community first. I appreciate that. I also be remiss if, to that point, I didn't recognize the contributions of Commissioner Anderson, who had been working on this project prior to my 50 or 60 or so days as the commissioner for Garden City. Glenn, thanks for your hard work too. Appreciate that, sir. And then to the administration, I feel like I'm at the Emmys. This is great. The county could have sat on this $329 million and just unilaterally decided what we wanted to do on our own. The fact that our county executive, Warren Evans, and Deputy County Executive Asad Turfi sought to engage in a collaborative process with our locals. Hassan, you and your team, who's sitting out here, to our commission chair, Alicia Bell, and my colleagues. I think this has again just been a really great effort between various layers of government that has put our communities first. And so I say all that flowery stuff to get to the hard-hitting questions now, Hass. So for smaller communities where cash flow might be an issue, when it comes to cost reporting and when it comes to the distribution or reimbursement of funds, what is the county's plan for ensuring that in awarding these dollars, we're also not placing a greater burden on smaller communities who might have cash flow issues and not be able to upfront some of the costs related to the construction?
So with the way that, and I can, talk about what our process is in regards to once the funding is dispersed out into the communities, it's allocated. It's not technically dispersed out, right? What we do and what our process is, we look for an invoice, and we started sending out invoice guidelines. We sent out the invoice guidelines and have started receiving invoices from batch 1 already. What that does is it's not saying that you have to spend the money to get reimbursement. It's, hey, give us an itemized invoice of where the money is potentially going to be spent so we can track that. And we can track the funding that's coming out to you prior to us putting the money in your hands, because we've identified and acknowledged that is going to be a problem. Not every city can put the money up front. So, what's the point of getting an allocation if you can't necessarily put up the funds to receive that allocation, right? So that's the way that we're operating in that aspect. Receiving the invoices back of what the potential cost will be, putting that funding out, and then getting an itemized invoice afterwards saying this is what the actual work was done, and this is what was actually spent. And then we're tracking the funds that way to make sure that every cent is accounted for, every dollar that is spent, we know exactly where it's being spent to, what work it was spent on, and who the contractors are, and all of that. So we have a very robust system in terms of how we're tracking all of this. And down the line, now that we're kind of rounding batch 2 and starting to think about batch 3, I also, want to make sure that we remember where we came from, and we will be coming back in front of you all with a presentation and an update on batch 1.
So what I'm hearing then is that there is an ask on the front end for the communities to provide some clarity or perspective on what the cost is. The money will go out the door, and then there'll be that truing up after the fact to ensure that there's transparency and accountability around all the dollars. That's wonderful. Thank you. And then the second piece, you talked a little bit about how Garden City didn't appear on the initial presentation, but appeared today. I about had a conniption that day, so thank you for getting this right. There was also things that were a part of that presentation that were not up here today. And again, I don't say that because I have an issue with it. I understand we're still working through some of the details. What I'm just looking for is clarity on that 166 that you said. Is that 166 inclusive of or in anticipation of spending the dollars associated with Ecorse Creek and Freedom Village and Inkster?
Yes.
Or will that
Yes,
number come out after the
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. Just to kind of give clarity, I'll talk about it in a timeline perspective, right? January 31st, that presentation was to give you guys a full purview of everything that's coming in front of you for batch 2. And that 166 approximate number, which I will again follow up with the exact number so that we have the real numbers in front of you all. That is based on all of that presentation, all of those projects, right? Now, what's in front of you today is what is being voted on tomorrow, right? Ecorse Creek will be coming down to you later this month. That will be the 10, and then we'll have 4 more projects left from there. So that is what the difference between today's project or presentation and the third presentation of the 31st. The 31st was kind of like the spark notes of everything. You got chapter 1 today. And we'll continue to move forward in that aspect. But that a number I'm giving you in terms of what's left over, the approximate number that I'm giving you is based on the entirety of batch 2.
And that includes Garden City. That was, okay, yes. That's helpful.
Yes.
Haas, thanks so much to you and your team. This has been a really great effort. Again, to all my locals that came out here today, my colleagues on the commission, the chair of the administration, really appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the kind words.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marecki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ditto, a lot what David said, but thank you for all the work you've all done, and thank you for all the electeds for coming out. I love seeing these projects. It's just the creativity, and I appreciate the interaction you've had with all the officials in these towns and townships and cities. And the one thing, and I know Khalil started this and you guys are continuing this, is that the IGAs are done before they come to the commission, which is very much appreciative. I think that saves everybody across the board potential heartache. So I think that's great. I mentioned this last time, and I just want to mention it again, that you putting in the sustainability part of this was huge in my book, because when all that ARPA funding was coming, that was my biggest concern about projects being done and not being able to be sustained. So that's very much appreciative here. I just have a question through the chair to our council. Are we in a position as a commission to get any kind of updates about numbers of the blighted property section of this, the 7.5 million? I know with the land bank, sometimes we don't necessarily get items. Are we in a position now, or should I be asking for that? Just to see, I just want to know the numbers and what kind of monies are being spent with the blight.
Through the chair, so right now, there is no report back to the commission. So if this body desires future information, either from the department or the land bank, which, as you know, is a separate entity, then that request should be made and perhaps could be included in the resolution if you clarify that now.
Okay.
So right now, there is no report back.
Okay, and I would ask my colleagues to consider that when we're making the motion today, to include that just for our own knowledge.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the kind words, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Baker McCormick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Hassan, for all that you and your team is doing to pull all of this together. I know it's hard work, and you came in the midst of all of these projects. One of the questions that I had was to the Garden City project, and I'm in support of all of the projects. You just indicated that it was brought to us, walked on, and I just want to understand how that works. There were other projects that were outlined prior to you arriving in your position, and I just want to know how.
So this project is a part of batch 2. It was just an oversight that it wasn't included in the presentation. So that's what happened. This project was originally and is supposed to be a part of batch 2. And unfortunately, there was an oversight, which I apologize for, and I'll make sure that that does not happen again. I've put in certain checks and controls within the process to make sure that these kinds of things don't happen again, to make sure that, this is a learning process as I'm coming in and I'm figuring out where the inefficiencies are, where the gaps are, and we're going to be filling in all those inefficiencies and all those gaps to make this the most efficient and most painless process for everybody involved. But this is and was and has been a part of the batch 2, which then after the presentation I gave you all on the 31st was brought to my attention that it was not in the PowerPoint, and I was like, wait a minute, you're right. So that was the issue, and it has been rectified. It is here now in the presentation in front of you all, but that is what happened, and we have corrected it, and we've also corrected where in the process so that doesn't happen again in the future.
Prior to you arriving, and even early on, I don't know if the commissioners recall that we talked about projects for seniors in our communities, for home repairs on an individual basis. I don't know what happened to that discussion, or is there being has been any additional consideration for projects on an individual basis?
At this point, again, we've been focusing on all these projects that have been in front of us, and we're looking forward to further conversations and communications in regards to other types of projects. I think that you bring up an incredibly important point, and an important topic, and would love to have further conversations about this with you all, as well as anybody from our team that should be involved in this, in these conversations, to see what the future route looks like in terms of what we can do, what resources we have, and what the roadmap should be in terms of making sure that we're taking care of our seniors.
And then just want to make sure I acknowledge the Redford team here today. As my colleague next to me just alluded, we've all crossed paths, but now I'm the commissioner in Redford, so I want to welcome the Redford team today. And want to be the maker of the motion on number 4. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Kinlock.
Madam Chair, I was going to make the motion.
Oh, okay. Well, let me go to Commissioner Kaleem before we do that. Commissioner Kaleem.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have a few questions from the staff analysis that we received on this. And so I think I either need fiscal staff or perhaps Commission Counsel. On the fiscal report we got from the Commission Fiscal Agency, right at the bottom of page 2 of 8, and I think this comment is to apply to all 8 projects that are on here. But there's a bullet point that says the administration has advised us that the county will not be impacted if projects are not completed in the time allotted, and the county will not be responsible for paying back ARPA funds. We are dealing with deadlines. We've been talking about this right from the beginning to get these projects committed. So I guess I need to hear from commission staff, either the fiscal or the legal folks. How is it that we don't have to pay this back if things are not done on time and money's not spent on time? How does that not impact the county?
We'll defer to.
I appreciate because it came from commission, but I'll listen to administration, but I still like commission staff to respond to that.
Go ahead, sir. You're on.
All right. Morning, Commission. Haris Ahmad with Corporation Counsel. So these are, for SLURF funds. They are revenue replacement on this batch, actually, mostly revenue replacement.
Is that the state revolving fund you're using shorthand on me? What kind of dollars did you say
I
these
forget
are?
what it stands for, but the state, federal, local revolving fund.
Revolving
right?
fund.
So all these funds, these ARPA funds that we're talking about, this is the subset of ARPA funds that we're using for all these projects. And then there's different categories of those that justify the use of them. Some are very particular to COVID in that they were for responding directly to the pandemic. And there is another category called revenue replacement, as you're aware. And that was calculated, the revenue replacement, there was an actual amount that was calculated, but then the criteria for those funds is just the county can spend it on anything that the county would be able to normally spend on, save a few exceptions. And so these are being done under that category. So if the funds are spent, as long as they're in an eligible category, as according to that criteria, the county would not lose those funds if the project were not complete. Now, of course, I'm not saying in the agreements, I think there is a requirement to complete, but we were talking about the penalty to the county. So that the county would not have to pay back those funds that they had already reimbursed for eligible expenses. And so I hope that's clear.
Well, you answered one question because that acronym was used. I couldn't find any, what the heck, SLFRF or whatever that was. So you've answered that question. Am I to understand you to say, I think you used the term SLURF for that all of these ARPA dollars are actually SLURF dollars?
Yeah, they are. The ones that we're using, yes, correct. These
The
are all
ones that
SLURF.
are on here
Yeah,
today.
on batch 1, batch 2, all these, that when we talk about batches, these are all SLURF. Yeah.
And under federal regulations, those don't have to be paid back if they're not spent in a timely fashion?
No, so, and so I do want to clarify, whatever our actual allocation is for the county, whatever hundreds of millions of dollars were allocated, if we do not spend those on eligible uses, yes, that would be returned. But what typically happens, let's say with HUD funds, for example, if those funds are spent on, well, they're not spent on a project that achieves a national objective by, or ultimately, or by certain deadlines, then you would have to pay it back. Right. So that's different here in the sense that the national objective itself is to, that was in this case, revenue replacement. So whatever the county was able to obligate and then spend within certain deadlines would have satisfied that, objective.
I'm still bothered by the language a little bit, so let me play it out just a little bit here. So we allocate, we've got projects today, 3 million, 5 million, right? And you're telling me these are SLRF dollars?
Yes.
So we send community X $3 million for these projects. Community doesn't get the project done on time. We don't have to pay it back to the feds. Where is that money now if we've already allocated it and the project doesn't get done on time? What's the liability then?
So again, there's a difference between the county being able to hold the community to a certain standard of having to complete versus the county having to pay the feds back. So the county would not be liable to pay the feds back as long as whatever it had reimbursed up to that point, let's just say $1 million out of that project, was considered eligible. And it's pretty broad in this case. The county would not have to pay it back under revenue replacement, which is what we're doing for most of these projects. But holding the community to the standard of completion, that is in the agreements. And so we could hold them by contract to the completion of that project. So there's a difference. That's the distinction I'm trying to make.
Well, yeah, we're kind of doing a college class here on the fly on all of this. Does the contract then say if they don't complete the project on time and we allocated 2 million, let's say, and the local community has spent $1 million, but it's not completed, but we've already sent them 2. Is that community going to be liable to return that $1 million to the county?
There are provisions for default that would be a default. Off the top of my head, yes, that would be a default under the agreement. And so if the county decided to, at that point, to enforce that, could. The county may choose at that point assessing whatever the situation may be, that there was some benefit already, because obviously those would have been eligible expenses towards whatever projects you are approving here. But I'm not going to speculate on that. The short answer is yes, it would be a default if the county chose to enforce it.
Well, these are all terms of art that are used. I don't know necessarily what you mean there in default.
I'm a lawyer.
Would we recoup the amount of money if the project is not completed? Does the county recoup the amount of money that was not spent from the local community?
It could, yes.
It could.
Yeah, it's up to the county whether it wants to enforce that. Yeah.
And then let's say we did recoup that, and the comment here is we don't have to reimburse the feds, right?
County chose to reimburse. I can't answer that question off the top of my head. That one I'll have to caveat, but I'm thinking here.
Because the other thing I was thinking, is this a windfall to the county? Hey, they didn't get it on time. Send your $1 million back. We don't have to reimburse Washington for this money. We'll just slide it into the general fund and go on our merry way.
Going, but yeah.
So I'm still a little.
No, but I think you would. But again, I can't speak to it. We'd have to look at that question specifically, but I doubt. I think that would be considered because we got.
Well, I'm just trying to do my job here, sir, and oversight. As we see with trains and the such, as governmental oversight is pretty important. So it's still not clear to me what would happen here. I don't like, but I'm not going to pursue it any further today. Okay, there's wiggle room here. Also on the fiscal analysis on page 7 of 8, a question is asked about if the county is requiring a match, then why isn't that language included in the agreements? And the answer from administration has something to do with, well, that's going to be in the budgets. And the budget is a legal part of the agreement. And so it is in there, even though it's not required in the language. But there was a phrase in there that kind of gave me cause of concern that said the county can hold the community to these budgets, right? That's our, right? We're having it there. We're not telling them over here, but put it in your budget. And then the phrase within reason, the county can hold the community to these budgets within reason. Okay, that sounds like a little bit of a leaky bucket to me, or possibly, because on question 14 then, what happens if the community entity does not provide its portion for the match? And it says the county can sue for breach of contract. Well, now we have this legal phrase, we can, but somehow within reason, we could sue them. So I don't understand what the phrase, the county can hold communities to these budgets within reason. Where could we not hold communities to these contracts?
Well, Commissioner.
First of all, do I have it right?
You have I mean, you're reading the answer. And so, and again, without holding the county to anything in the future.
I understand.
Yeah. As counsel, I will say that, within reason would be just the practical analysis of it if it were to, God forbid, go to court, or, a court would look at it if we were trying to enforce a breach over a variation of a minor budget item. It may not be upheld. Again, we reserve our right to go after, but yeah, so the simple answer is yes, they have to hold to the budget.
Is there some sort of case law that says by having this in the budget and not specifically in the agreement, but the budget that's attached to the agreement or whatever? Is there a case law that says, yeah, that's legally binding then?
The exhibit is part of the agreement, so it would be a provision of the agreement.
Legally binding.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of money here, so I want to make sure. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone for now. On the, there's something that popped up for me on our legal analysis. Again, something that didn't seem to jibe to me. Commission counsel was asking questions again about, this is item 2 on the top of page 5 and 9, asking about 7.02 of the agreements, dealing with defaults and that sort of thing. And in a follow-up question, Commission counsel asked if the default should occur and it is of a nature that would have financial impact on the county, such as the ability for the county to recoup funds. Then please explain if the act of waiving such a default falls under the purview of the officer reference and whatever. The response was, if such a default were to cause the county to incur financial loss, that would require commission approval unless it were to fall under some specific authority assigned or delegated to the CEO. I'm sorry, I just don't understand that at all, because the follow-up question then, if it does fall under the purview of the officer, whatever that is referenced, and please explain the process regarding a waiver is. Doesn't include, and the response to that was if the waiver is for minor defaults without financial implication, division or department head is appropriate would sign off. If the waiver has financial implications for the county, then it would require CEO sign off and commission approval. So what are the defaults that we're talking about here? And where is it that the commission would have to take action or approve a default, I guess? If it involved county funds, I just don't understand what I'm getting into here.
So I think
Hold
that,
hold on one second. Commission Counsel, do you want to answer that?
Through the chair, so what Commissioner Colleen was reading was our inquiry regarding language that says that an officer of the county, so some employee of the county could waive a default of the agreement. Well, the default of the agreement could be significant or it could be minor, right? Depending on what we're talking about. Maybe it's invoices or something was late, but they actually end up doing it. That's minor. That's not something that the commission would get involved in. But when you're talking potentially millions of dollars, it could be a default that could be significant and could have a financial impact. So what I believe the department was indicating is that for those minor sort of day-to-day things that they can get cured and addressed, that they would do so like they do in the normal course of business. If it's something that's going to be significant, maybe someone runs out of money and can't complete a project, and now we're looking at a half-built road or park or something, maybe it will have a greater financial impact, and then the county would have to come together to figure out how to address that default. If that default requires perhaps suing of the entity, the community, or perhaps the county investing more money, then they will come back to the commission. So we were just trying to get an understanding of their intent of the language, because it's not something that's common. And I believe that was sort of the intent. Depending on the nature of it, small, they'll address it. If it becomes something major, they'll come back to us for input and resolution.
Because, I have a responsibility as an elected official to protect the county. So an understanding of this. And then I'll also ask Commission Counsel then, who makes the call on what's a no biggie and what's a biggie? Is there, like, in the law, some trigger that says if it's over 100,000, that's considered major? How is that determined? Because
But some of that's going to be the discretion of the administration because they're dealing with this daily. But some of that also will go back to budget. They may not have the budget if they need more funds. It may come back to the delegated authority amount of the CEO if they want to enter into a different contract to address it. So some of it will be their discretion and some of it will just be the general rules that we have in the county. So it just depends.
okay, so if a default for whatever reason is in play here, an officer of the county will make the call as to whether that's a biggie or a small, and it needs to come to the commission or it doesn't. It can be handled in-house. It's going to be an officer of the county that makes that call.
I'm gonna refer to the department, but I believe what they were indicating was depending on the nature of it. I mean, obviously there'll be internal discussions. It won't just be that one person making that decision.
Yeah.
And they'll have that internal discussion, hopefully with Corp Counsel and maybe the CEO's office to make those determinations. That was my understanding of their response.
and it does require more discussion and looking deeper into it. But, our thought was that if we're talking about a minor, some things are definitely minor and within the purview of the executive, where we wouldn't even want to come back to commission. I don't think the commission would want us to come back on the color of a door or something like that. Just because it was in the specs. But when we're talking about a financial impact in particular, that's where I think you would get much more exact and precise. So it's not at the discretion. It would be, is there authority or not? Is there some actual authority? And we'd have to go back and look and see in the charter. So if there was delegated authority for a specific amount and that falls under that, and that would be in discussion, then yes, the CEO, through his delegated officer, could make that decision. But otherwise, if there's some type of financial impact to the county that's above any authorized threshold, then we'd have to come back to commission. So I think that's pretty concrete, but you'd have to look at the analysis at that point, especially when it comes to financial thing. Now, other things would require discussion, and it's something we have to look into. But yeah. I think the department looking at it needed to at least have the ability to note it that, there is this ability to administer the agreement.
Thank you. Thank you, Commission Counsel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was actually going to ask the director to come back up to clarify a few items as well. So.
Absolutely. So at this time, we do not have a list of contractors, but I do want to clear up, misspoke that I told you about the contractors earlier. We have to follow all the procurement ordinances that the county has. So that means that the RFQs that we do to select the contractors have to be out on the street at least 30 days. So to select those contractors, your earlier question, it'd be a minimum of 60 days before we can get to those contractors. We do not have a list right now. We're going to use procurement and communications to put out a list when we do the RFQ, and then we'll pick the contractors from there. Yes, the county, yes, the land bank will make this selection, yes. Yep, I think the county has imposed a kind of self-time limit of 70% by the 31st of 24, and then the other 30% by the 31st of 25. So we're going to try to follow those guidelines that the county has presented. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Clark Coleman.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So are we going to vote on these as a total package?
Yes.
Or are we going to vote on these separately?
Together.
Okay, because I hear people saying, I want to be the maker of the motion and all that.
I'm gonna address that when we get to that point. Yep. So we're going to vote on these together. Remember, this is moving to full board. On tomorrow, when we have the founder's position, we can go through and have so-and-so be the maker of so-and-so. But today, because we're moving this to full board, I'd appreciate one motion for 1 through 9. And I think I have a motion by Commissioner Palomera and seconded by David Kniezek. And in the motion, it will touch on what Commissioner Basham had asked about the projects, having the subcontractors come back in the resolution. And then on item number 9, to make sure that we have that those items come back before us with the land bank, because the land bank doesn't necessarily come back before us. So that'll be in the motion as well. So Commissioner Palomera.
As you just stated, with that information coming back on the subcontractors, as well as item 9, I move approval of that as well, with the information coming back on the land bank.
And those will be on the resolutions when we vote on them fully tomorrow, as well as with the persons who would like to be the maker of the motions for their communities. Okay, all right. It's been moved and supported. Please vote.
Madam Chair, I had my hand raised to speak.
I'm sorry, I thought you'd had your hand raised as a second. Go ahead, Commissioner Kniezek.
Just really quick, and so I wanted to clarify one thing, just because it was entered on the record. When the words were said, or the pronunciation slurf, we're not talking about the state loan revolving fund. What we're talking about is the state and local fiscal recovery fund, that $350 billion subset of ARPA. The last piece I'll say, and I'm going to say it in response to what Commissioner Killeen said, I don't want him to interpret it as me responding to you in a combative way. One of the best things that we can do to, I think, avoid some of those challenges when it comes to the funding and the spending. And listen, we have to accept that at some point, supply chain issues, cost of goods, whatever it may be, things may come in a little lower, or a little higher of what we're appropriating here today. We have to have faith, I think, in our local partners, our local governments. We have to have faith in our attorneys and our processes here at the county. I certainly do. The best thing that we can do here today, as I've now interrupted, Madam Chair, is vote yes to put the money in their pockets as quickly as possible to try to avoid those issues. So I appreciate the issues that were raised, and also appreciate, I think, some of the checks and balances that we have in place to make sure that we avoid those issues.
Thank you,
If I may, real quickly, Madam Chair, to my colleague.
Mr. Killeen.
Yeah, you got to have faith, but then there's also a thing called contracts. You don't do everything on faith. And once you write stuff down, you want to make sure that you've written contracts in a way that you are not hurting yourself. And that's where my questions come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you killed
no.
Always.
Yes, we'll put you down as a yes. But we gotta get them charged. Oh, God. You always have problems, Commissioner Basham. What are you doing over there?
He always kills his
I
stuff.
know.
Irma.
Irma has to vote too.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. Thank again all the communities for coming out today. We appreciate you speaking to us. We appreciate the projects. We look forward to those really enhancing each of your communities. Thank you, commissioners, for the late committee of the whole, and thank you, Mr. Interim Director, for your staff for their due diligence.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item.
Such other matters as may properly be submitted before the committee.
Nope.
Public comments.
Is there anyone on Zoom? I see a hand. You have 90 seconds. Go ahead. That's Robert.
I'll make this
Afternoon,
fast.
sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Robert Pulowski representing Southgate. So a couple things I want to talk about today regarding the presentations that were in front of the committee. Very in support for this. One of those being not just all the presentations, but my hometown, Southgate. I've been very heavily involved with this process going forth with the Southgate Tower. And it's really great to see the community go from up and going even better and bigger things. We now have low-income housing. We have new housing coming in, pedestrian bridges, new bike trails, and also walking trails for more people that are looking to exercise within the summer months. So we have a lot of good things going in Southgate, and I'd like to thank the City Administrator Dan Marsh and Mayor Joseph Cuspa for all the great work, including City Council for all their due diligence to really push this project in front of Commission here today. Tomorrow is the big vote on this issue, and we have a lot of hope here for our communities, not just here in Southgate, but here in Wayne County alone. We're here for economic development. Wayne County is growing. We have a lot of new projects, and now with this money coming in, we have big, hopeful future here in Wayne County. Let's bring the couples in, the young couples that are looking to start their families here in Wayne County with these new investments. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else wish to speak during public comments? Anyone on the telephone? Anyone in chambers? Okay, hearing none. Next item, please.
Adjournment.
Okay, before we adjourn, really quick.
So moved.
Really quick. If everyone could please let the clerk know what item you would like to be the maker of the motion today, so that tomorrow that is already done and it could be a smooth process. Thank you very much. Being adjourned. Thank you.
Good job.
Two.